Every moment of your day, your brain is being flooded with billions of bits of information. Everything that you're seeing and hearing around you, everything that you're touching in this moment, the clothes that you're wearing, the chair that you might be sitting in, information about where your body is in space, about the health and stability of all of your internal organs, the temperature outside, the temperature inside. All of this information is being collected, it's being organized, and it's being processed to a certain extent by the brain. But why then is our conscious experience only aware of such a small fraction of that information? What is attention? And how does it work in the brain? And if we can truly understand that, can we learn how to make it better? My name is Taylor Guthrie, and I'm a cognitive neuroscientist. And this is my channel, The Cellular Republic. It's a place where we explore what we know about how the brain works. And we look at how the brain might be communicating with and managing this community of millions of living cells that it's responsible for. The living cells that make you who you are. So attention, what is it really? It's often been described as a spotlight or as a bottleneck. It's some kind of mechanism that's filtering out all of the information that's not important and instead focusing on and enhancing the information that's relevant to our goals, to our ambitions, our intent. It's one of the most fascinating things that the brain is able to accomplish. And in order to really grasp what I mean by this, we're going to do a quick demonstration. So in a moment, I'm going to fill the entire screen with letters, like this. Now, this time when I do it, I want you to do something very specific. I want you to look in this part of the screen, and I want you to look for a word. You ready? All right, go. All right, did you find it? The word brain? That's good. Your attention mechanisms are working great. The more important question, though, is did you see any other words on the screen in other parts that I didn't tell you to look at? Maybe science down here? Your brain, your eyes are bringing in all of that information about all of those letters on the screen. And all of that is being processed to a certain extent. But for some reason, your brain ignored all of this information and instead just focused on and enhanced this one word, turned it into a perception, a concept. Now, this is a really crude example, but it's a really nice demonstration of what the brain is going through in every moment, constantly deciding what to get rid of, what to enhance and keep and turn into a perception to bring to awareness. But it also really clearly demonstrates that our attention mechanisms are intimately linked with our goals. I told you where to look, and I told you what to look for. I primed your brain and put it into a state where it had a plan on what information it was looking for and what information to get rid of. Okay, but what is a goal? And where can we find one of those in the brain? Now, in order for the brain to create and manage a goal, it needs to do three things. It needs to first identify a need, some problem that needs to be solved. Second, it needs to formulate a plan. It needs to take all of the information that it has about the current situation, and it then needs to bring online all of the relevant experiences that it's gone through before, information that it has about the world in general, and it needs to flexibly and creatively combine all of that information into some kind of a plan that's going to be used to solve that problem that we have. But the third thing the brain needs to do, probably the most important thing, is that it needs to monitor progress towards that goal. It needs to make sure that the plan that's been created is actually successful and whether or not it needs to adjust and adapt and tweak the plan. Now, these processes largely are believed to be happening in the frontal lobe, especially the planning phase and the monitoring phase of goal creation. And there seems to be a division of labor of sorts, where the planning phase seems to be happening closer to the outside of the frontal lobe, the lateral portions of the frontal lobe. And as you get closer to the middle of the brain, into these medial regions, that's where we think a lot of the monitoring processes are taking place. keeping track of whether or not we're actually achieving any of that plan and making progress towards that goal. And this part of the frontal lobe seems to be what's really heavily tied into these attention mechanisms that we've been talking about. Because in order to monitor a goal, we need to be looking for any kind of information that either confirms or denies that we're actually moving towards the desired outcome that we want. Now, how we think this is actually working is that these areas in the frontal lobe are talking to, constantly communicating with our early sensory processing regions. They're telling these processing regions what kind of information to look for, what kind of things are going to help it understand whether or not it's on track for accomplishing what it was intending to do. And it's actually boosting these signals in these really early processing regions for any type of information that's relevant to the outcome of the goals that you're pursuing. So what can we actually do with this information now that we have some insight into how these processes are probably working? And a lot of it comes down to how we're actually spending our time developing these goals. The whole process of planning, working memory, these things that are happening kind of in the outside of the frontal lobe, this is a really active process. It's a really energy intensive process. And so it's something that the brain only does when it really has to. But once that time has been put in, once you've really worked through a good plan, then that goal then gets sent to these regions of the frontal lobe that are more kind of in the middle, these medial portions that monitor the goal. And it becomes a much more passive process. We don't even have to think about the goal or think about the plan. And these regions of our brain are just constantly tracking them. They're constantly looking for information about whether or not we're making any progress on them. And we can have hundreds of goals all online at the same time. I mean, think about your daily life and all of the different things that you're trying to accomplish. Your brain's keeping track of all of those. So if you really want to make your attention better, if you really want your brain to start focusing on the things that actually matter in your life, that matter to your ambitions and to your overall goal in life, then there's two things that you have to do. You first have to be really clear about what it is that you want. You need to identify your needs and create the target for the goal. But most importantly, you need to plan. You need to collect as much information that you can about that goal. Break it down into the smallest little pieces that you can. It's a very energy intensive process. It's a very active process. It's something that you need to engage in. But when you do that work and when you put in that frontal lobe time and develop that plan, then all of it becomes passive. Your brain is automatically just going to start tracking and paying attention and focusing on the things that matter to each and every single one of those little steps that you broke that goal down into. And that's the secret. So I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you gained a little bit of insight into how attention works in the brain, and how it's connected to our goals, and ultimately the kind of power that you have over that whole process. So if you got any kind of value from this, it would really help my channel if you hit like and subscribe. I plan on making a lot more videos like this that really delve into what it is that we know about the brain and what kind of control we really can have over those processes. If you like this channel and you want to help keep us going, there's some really creative ways that you can do that. First, check out my wife's awesome gift shop that she's put together. She's created all kinds of really creative neuroscience and psychology inspired gifts like shirts, mugs, and other things, among a whole host of other really cool creative designs in other domains. You can check out in the description below. I have some discount codes for some online courses that I teach, but ultimately the easiest and the freest way that you can help the channel is actually to sign up for a free trial of Audible. Now, I don't personally push any kind of a product that I don't believe in. I have over 4.5 months of listening time on Audible. I've put down over 300 books. And it's all been when I've been doing things like the dishes and yard work and driving around to do errands around town. It was all times that I didn't have time to have a physical book in my hand. And it's allowed me to absorb so much information and put down so many good books. And when you sign up for a free trial, you get a free book. So I highly recommend Livewired by David Eagleman. It's a fantastic book, really great author. You'll learn a ton about the brain. And even if you cancel your subscription, you get to keep the book. And it also still helps the channel if you cancel your subscription. So give it a try. I guarantee you'll like it. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next one.